When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle.
Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish,
the podcast that's blowjob over stilettos and love.
This is a reference I don't understand.
Head over heels.
Oh. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
We're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality.
Think about it. It'll be hilarious.
Yeah. I'm so nervous. Today we're going to talk about anime.
Yeah.
I assume, like furries, that they're just passionate about their shit and will be very angry.
We got nice comments from furries. Did you say we bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality?
We're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality.
Did you already say that? Was I just in my head about I didn't? Okay, about
you can find out later when you edit this
thing that didn't totally land. That's fine. Furries were very nice to us,
yeah.
And I think hopefully someone that is an outsider, caring, showing interest, not talking about the subject like they're shitty, awful people. I think it sucks that is like rewarded with, oh my God, thank you. You know,
right? Yeah.
That's my hope, is that the same thing happens. Also, this is not our fault.
Right? Yeah, for sure. we're gonna talk about anime, but first, we are at our Gayish annual meeting retreat, so it's a little echoey in here. If you hear a like. It sounds like we're in a cave. We are not.
I was just going to tell everyone we're performing live at like Carnegie Hall or something. You know, live episodes always have that like a little bit of echoey.
Live from Radio City Music Hall,
yeah.
Which is what I've renamed this living room.
Do you think they're going to rename Radio City Music Hall Podcast City Music Hall at some point?
I don't know.
Sorry, two that didn't land. That's fine.
It's
we can keep going.
It's more of a podcast town, I think, than
Go
anything.
Podcast City Hall.
Yeah. But it's great. We're talking about, like, you know, what our future looks like and
what our future is, how into each other we are, and if we want to keep this thing going.
If I decide to quit after the podcast awards.
That was a threat that still lurks over all of your shoulders. So you should sign up for Patreon. No, it's fine. I'm just kidding, but please do it.
Yeah.
We're coming up with question. We want to ask y'all questions to get your input on things.
Oh yeah,
there's help us with planning and stuff. So
a forthcoming survey, which if you say it on the air, it has to happen.
This is our accountability. Also, I'm going to exercise every other day for the next month.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. That's not going to work.
I hear the fitness channel on Discord is like a good way to like feel accountable.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Okay. Oh, good. Download our Discord. This is all plugs for stuff.
Great.
The news?
Now the news.
Shut your mouth hole. It's time for your ear holes. News
the first.
Are we keeping that intro?
Sure. Why not?
I don't know. Have you ever thought like, yeah, we should do that again?
We can't knock them all out of the park.
Gayish. It's usually pretty good.
Okay. News the first. After only 90 minutes of deliberation, the jury has found Kevin Spacey not liable for battery in a sex abuse case involving actor Anthony Rapp, who's in Star Trek, and that's why we have to talk about it. Also, they're all gay.
Yeah.
So this is a victory for Kevin Spacey. A New York jury has found him not liable for battery on allegations he picked up actor Anthony Rapp and briefly laid on top of him in a bed after a party in 1986.
Not liable is not, you're not saying not guilty.
Well, right, exactly. And so Anthony Rapp sued Spacey for battery and intentional infliction of emotional distress and assault. And Judge Lewis Kaplan dismissed the claim of assault before the trial even started, dismissed the claim of intentional infliction of emotional distress after Rapp's attorneys decided not to press charges. After all, on that, they rested their case and left the jury to decide on battery, and the jury came back and said, nah. So under New York law, battery is touching another person without their consent in a way that a reasonable person would find offensive. And it's interesting, I think, because the case is so old, right?
Yeah,
like it's 35 years ago.
How old
or
was
more.
Anthony Rapp? Do you know? Like, he was a kid. Right?
Kevin Spacey was 26 and Anthony Rapp was 14 when he allegedly had him back to his Manhattan home, or in his Manhattan home, had a party, and he picked Rapp up, quote, laid him down on his bed, grabbed his buttocks, and pressed his groin into Rapp's body without his consent. And Rapp's attorney is sort of trying to claim that, like, he got off because he's a good actor. Quote, don't listen to what I said in real time. I'm defending a lawsuit now. Listen to me now. I've got it straightened out. Mocking Spacey's attempt to convince the jury he was coerced by publicists to give the statement he testified he now regrets. Quote, when you're rehearsed and a world-class actor and you're following the script and following the testimony of someone else, you can take that stand and be perfectly polished, Stegman said. When you're merely coming to court to come forward and tell the truth of your experience, especially one that's this a little bit complicated. Anyway,
this is a he said, and they're saying Kevin Spacey's a
better sayer.
Academy Award-winning actor that's going up against someone that's doing this difficult. It's not acting; it's just real talking that may be confusing or not like polished or
which that's kind of poor Anthony Rapp. Like, not only did you get sexually assaulted, but now you're like being publicly called a less good actor by your own attorney.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that makes sense though. That why, like, he's saying that Kevin Spacey is someone that can put on a very good performance.
Yep. And Kevin Spacey's attorney opened by saying, quote, we're here because Mr. Rapp has falsely alleged abuse that never occurred at a party that was never held in a room that did not exist. And apparently got that to stick. There's also the whole thing about, like, Anthony Rapp just made it up to like out Kevin Spacey. That part of the defense was like it was just malicious on Anthony Rapp's part to out Kevin Spacey because Kevin Spacey is a big deal, and that's just who does. I understand that straight people might think that that's a thing that would happen, like the evil gays plotting against each other, and that it's just for attention. But like, how fucking horrible.
I mean, that, and anyone that's a victim of sexual assault, if they come forward, everyone's like, oh, they're just doing it for fame. Like that happened with the 37 women that came forward about Trump, and it's like, oh, they're just doing it to get famous. And it's like, okay, name one of them.
Yeah.
No, that's not. They don't benefit in fame. They don't benefit. They don't get more money. They, in fact, quite the opposite, probably spend a ton of money, get harassed by people that don't believe them, and they're
lose out on interviews and job opportunities because they're too controversial and a distraction. That's the phrase that gets used there, right? They would be a distraction.
God, that is such a phrase for I don't want to hire you or talk to you for reasons that are out of your control, but I'm not allowed to say the real reason. Distraction.
Yeah.
God, you're right. Yeah. So, I mean, all the things that people blame when people blame the victims on what they think they're going after, it's like, that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
It sucks to have to do all that to come forward and to talk about it. No one's, I don't know, scheming to do that.
This is also interesting. I thought, like, it just sort of a footnote. One of the defense attorneys also suggested that Rapp came up with this story because he was in a nearly identical scene in a Broadway show called Precious Sons. He was performing with Ed Harris in 1986 at the time of the alleged incident. So they're like, that happened to a character that you were playing on stage, not real life, Anthony Rapp. 14-year-old you just didn't know the difference between reality and acting and got the person wrong because Ed Harris and Kevin Spacey are the same person. I don't know. It's just it's a weird thing to try to say that, like, don't play a character that gets sexually assaulted because then, like, if it actually happens later, then the defense attorney for that can point to that and say that you were confused. It's just
that's very true.
Anyway,
that sucks. Yeah.
Sorry, Anthony Rapp.
That sucks.
I still like you on Star Trek a whole bunch.
There you go. That's your consolation prize.
Yep. News the second.
Yeah.
This is so. We've talked a little bit about Liz Truss, the Prime Minister of the UK. And she resigned. She resigned yesterday after just 45 days in office. This makes her the shortest ever serving prime minister. And there's this Pink News article written by Amelia Hansford that is just a catty. I fucking love it. 8 things that lasted longer than Liz Truss as prime minister. Number 1. Oh, I will add to this list how many hours of Us are there out there?
Oh no,
Probably not 45 days worth. But number one is the combined runtime of every EastEnders episode. So EastEnders is a BBC soap opera, and if you were to watch the whole thing in one sitting, it would take you 116 days to complete. It's been on for 37 years, and so that's been longer. Number two, the total number of weeks that Last Christmas by Wham has topped the charts. It spent 31 weeks in the top 10 of the UK charts. Number three, Cher's Believe. The song Do You Believe in Life?
No, that song is like 3 minutes.
Spent 12 weeks in the UK's top 10 and 31 weeks in the charts. That's way longer than she was in Office. Number four, Jerry Hollowell's solo career.
But just barely.
Yeah, Ginger Spice released 3 solo albums, enjoyed several number one singles. So then number 5, that one raw onion you forgot about in the cupboard. Liz Truss's conservative leadership campaign, the inaction on the conversion therapy ban by the conservative government, and every other prime minister before her. Honorable mention, the shelf life of a head of lettuce. Yeah, it's really interesting because so much of the prime minister fight for who was going to replace Boris Johnson really came down to, well, not like fundamentally, but there was a lot of vitriol about queer people, especially trans people. And she was sort of the least evil of the options, but that's not a very high bar.
Yeah.
And almost certainly somebody worse than her for queer people is going to be named next week. It also might be Boris Johnson again, which I think is fucking hilarious.
We just missed that haircut, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, good luck, UK.
Oh, God.
Glad I don't live there. Also, I don't want to live here.
Yeah.
Canada's looking pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Canada or Ireland? We were talking last night. Right?
Yeah. Finland.
Finland? Yeah. Absolutely. Call a general election, y'all. Okay. Last but not least.
Yeah.
News the last. God, Kyle.
What? Jeez. Do you need a hug?
We have to talk about Taylor Swift.
That's going to be the title of like a satirical essay you write at some point in your life.
Yeah. God. Taylor Swift's Midnights dropped last Friday.
This is making the motherfucking news?
Yep.
I'm so excited. I don't care that much, but I'm excited that you... Okay, yeah.
Great.
Reminder, we're a gay show. Here's how you remember.
Yeah. But she posted a sizzle reel teaser video to her social media accounts Thursday night, and like the 20th or whatever. And in there, you can see that at least in one of her videos, her love interest is trans actor Laith Ashley, who's so fucking hot.
God.
I have to talk about him, even though it means I have to talk about Taylor Swift.
Oh, Taylor Swift is the journey we take to get to the destination of Laith Ashley.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I get it now.
I can't. He is so hot.
Yeah.
It just fucking A.
Yeah.
Yeah. Laith Ashley, call me. So he appears in silhouette on a crowded dance floor, engaged in a hot and steamy dance with her. And then later in the video, they're in bed together and he's shirtless and she's like stroking his back as he sleeps beside her. And then the video ends with her winking to the camera. And indeed, his name is in the credits. It's not like a Laith Ashley lookalike. He legit was involved in this project. He also shared the trailer in an Instagram story and wrote, quote, "You are magic. Thank you for letting me play a small part in your story." And Alex Schmeider, who is the director of trans representation at GLAAD, has been on social media talking about Laith's involvement in the project. So what we really need to talk about, on top of how fucking smoking ass hot he is does this mean I have to like her more? Because there's an evil, I'm not happy about it, part of me that's like, this is just opportunism again, you no talent ass clown. But also, she's legit like giving a platform to a trans person in a non-visibly trans role, right? Like, and I don't know. I'm interested.
I think of when we like talking about corporations a lot where they publicly support LGBT issues or write a piece on their website that's like, we're cool, we're down, we're hip, and then privately support lots of Republican or anti-LGBT politicians. That I think there's a big difference between that and what Taylor Swift is doing, which people I'm sure will call queer baiting. I'm sure people will say it's opportunistic. If it's opportunistic, I don't know. Like, it's kind of doing what we ask people to do, which is let LGBT people play roles, that some that are about LGBT topics, or some that are, happens to be a trans man, but he's the love interest, because trans men can be love interests of stories. And like, I don't know what, if she's privately going behind the scenes and doing shitty stuff, or, wealthy people also support politicians. If she, I don't know what her, like, where money goes to, like, if she's privately doing different things, then I would be angry. But like, I don't know. I think she's kind of doing what she should be doing.
Yeah. All right. I'm very interested. Should I be very interested in whether the transness of that actor plays any part in the role that he plays? Like, is it just a cis straight character, or is there some aspect of the character that will also be trans? I don't know why that would mitigate anything for me, but I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
And because he also, like, passes as cis, right? And that's problematic. There's no, like, we shouldn't have an expectation that trans people pass at all. But he does. Like, that could be a cis straight character. So then I don't know, that changes it somehow for me, if whether that character has any sort of trans visibility to it beyond the person playing it.
Yeah. I mean, I think of, like, when you write a role that's more for, like, movies or TV, the assumption, unless it is specifically described, the assumption is they are a white, who am I going to cast? White, straight, cis, like, those are all the defaults, unless you say otherwise, unless you say black, unless you say gay, unless you say trans. So if the default can be anyone, cis or trans, like, if this character was not written as trans male lead, this person, if it was just male lead and trans people are equally able to get that role, I think that's a huge benefit. I think we also need movies and visibility on specifically trans people that are explicitly trans, written to be trans, and so both I think are needed. So I think you're right, it does change my view of it, but not in a worse way, just in I want trans men to be able to be leading men.
Yep. Let Ashley sit on my face. That's the news.
It should be like your closing of every news segment. It's just speaking of people that
should sit on my face.
Sitting on our wallet. Your wallet is sitting on our face. Our faces are eating your wallet.
Hey,
I don't know.
New tier for Patreon. A benefit at the $100 a month level is sit on my face.
Eat my face is a different thing. Hold on, wait.
Okay.
That went a different. I didn't mean that. Okay. Thank you to the Patreon members: Elliot O'Mara, JR Jr., which
Junior.
Oh yeah, come on. I mean, well, all right.
I wonder if it's that hot boy from Chicago. Anyway, go ahead.
JR, are you hot and or from Chicago? Let us know. And Singh.
Sing?
Maybe I got that right. I don't know. Sorry. If you want to be a Patreon member, you can join at patreon.com/Gayish podcast. Get episodes a day early. Come to our next upcoming quarterly happy hour, which is on a date coming up very soon.
Wednesday, November the 2nd at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Anybody at any tier of support gets to hang out with us.
Yeah,
so come do it.
You're welcome to join for a month at the $2 level, hang out with us and chat. And you get, at the $5 level, get bonus episodes, content, momsplaining, bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. One of the tiers at our Gap Bridger level, if you're a Gap Bridger for 3 months, you get to pick an episode topic, and that's why we are where we are today in this moment.
Yep. We'll hop on a Zoom call and chat with you about your ideas and flesh out what the episode's going to be, and then we will do our very best to mangle the shit out of it.
To manga the shit out of it?
Yeah. Jesus. But yeah, Mike Cubbington, who is one of our Gap Bridgers, suggested anime, and it's really funny because we usually ask people to come with like several ideas. Instead, he came with one idea and a spreadsheet. So
yeah, a few ideas, or get so passionate about this one that we just have to do it. Yeah. So you took that route, which, kudos. We did also explain both to him, and we will now to you, we're not super anime gays or into anime, so this is another one that's like, all right, yeah, let's take a swing. I'm excited. I think there's a lot of interesting things about it, but also not a world I'm in.
Yeah, same. Which you said just a little bit ago that I also am not that. So yes,
Yeah.
you were speaking for me, Kyle.
Yeah, I do that sometimes.
But it was right.
A lot of times, actually. I was going to say only when I know the answer, but maybe sometimes but not. Anime, yeah.
God, should we talk about anime?
Let's talk about anime. Thanks, Mike. Well, good luck to you and us.
Don't call us. We'll call you.
Just don't anything. Yeah.
Well, you already said a little bit about us, like not being anime gays, which gay animes, anime gay. I don't know. Anyway, what does anime mean to you? To me, I've always thought of anime as being like a visual style and a visual style only. It's like I know it when I see it. It's characters with big eyes being crazy emotional.
Yeah, and making the sound, huh? That you have to make that sound at least once in an episode, or else you're not an anime.
That's so true. Oh my god. Yeah. But
same. Same. I think of it as there's a visual style. There's often in Japanese, and dubbed or subtitles or what have you, and like a little bit surrealist in the things that happen.
Yep. So the thing is, in Japanese, anime is just short for animation and is any cartoon.
Yeah.
So
my favorite anime, Bob's Burgers.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Can you imagine? Have they ever done like an anime style scene?
They have done a scene because they did one episode and they did fan art for different. Every scene was a different style of using fan art, and one of them was like an anime style.
Okay. Was it believable?
Believable.
Oh my, yeah. There's a screenshot.
Big eyes
and
full heart, can't lose.
What does that mean?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. But outside of Japan, and particularly in English, anime is animation from Japan and has a look to it, and that characteristic style came out of the 1950s. There's specifically a cartoonist, Osamu Tezuka, who is sort of the grandfather of anime. And it's a really, really big deal. There's over 430 different companies that do officially produce anime, and even like Miyazaki, all of those movies, like My Neighbor Totoro and Spirited Away, and major motion pictures that do well and win Oscars and shit are done in an anime style. But manga is the not moving version and is older. So manga comes out of the 19th century, and it's just like we would call them comic books or like strip cartoons. And what, you're looking at your notes because I'm covering something that you were going to cover?
No. Kind of, but I don't know if you're in Japan, they consider it both comics and what we would call anime. Like that's manga. Like cartoons are manga in Japan.
Yes. Yeah. And there's also a lot of like crossovers, just like we have superheroes like Marvel comics that were.
I don't like that you looked at my notes and decided and were like, wait, what? You don't.
I didn't look.
No, you weren't. You looked at me looking at my notes, and then you were like, you're gonna say, don't keep.
Don't tell me what to do, Kyle.
Don't look at me.
Go.
I'm gonna add to my contract. You have to close your eyes while you're talking.
I am beautiful.
Okay, sorry. What were you saying?
Don't look at me.
Damien.
So.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. So manga. Sorry. Yeah. In the United States, we have all of these comic books that started as comic books, and then they were cartoons on TV, and then some of them, like Batman and Superman, like became movies. There's a very similar thing, right? There are a lot of franchises that have appeared in multiple modes that are part of the anime universe throughout the course of this media form in Japanese culture. And a lot of crossover stuff, right? And but then what I also we need to talk about. Well, let me back up. The history of like animation and this style can be traced back to this thing called emakimono, and emakimono goes way back, like 8th century, and what they would do is there was these huge long scrolls, like sometimes meters long scrolls, and they would draw a whole story on it and then roll it up. And so the storyteller, either alone rolling and unrolling it themselves or with helpers like on a stage, would, I mean, it's not moving, but it's moving this story. And so a lot of the, like, especially narrative elements of what happens in anime and the tone, and even to a certain extent, the look of it goes way, way, way back. Wow. So they've been doing this like moving picture story kind of a concept without being like cell by cell animation for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah, TVs were very bad back then. They were just paper.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, but then like everything else, if it's media, there's porn, and that's what hentai is, which I don't think I realized, at least for me. Maybe I'm dumb, but the differences between manga, anime, and hentai hadn't been clear to me until like today, because they're like, if there's a pornographic element to it, it is hentai, and it is anime or manga pornography.
And this is not just a if it exists, there's a porn of it style. This is a whole genre filled, I'm sure, with tentacles and fucking and like,
but also big eyes and
big holes,
outsized holes, and
I don't actually know that much about it, so but
I mean, some of it is. And there's lots of different kinds of hentai that includes queer stuff. There's hentai from 1814 called The Dream of the Fisherman's Wife, where she's getting fucked by an octopus for sure.
Was that in Archer? Did they have a comic book in Archer about that?
React to that.
I already don't like octopi. They make me uncomfortable just by their mere existence, and the fact that I know they're so smart, but they're like have all those like legs. Like, why do you need all those? Yeah. What are you doing that you need so many legs?
Yeah.
And to have them then be providing kind of the oral pleasure of cunnilingus on her while wrapping all of their things around her
with a friend. That's they're tag teaming, right?
Like that's buddy up there. They're fucking spit roasting right now. I'm already octopi are uncomfortable even in a non-pornographic situation. So that's like one of my worst fears aside from failure.
Great. Well, I'm glad I could share that with you and you with the world.
And we could do this podcast so I can get failure as well. We got it all right here.
All of that's to say, I think that there is a incorrect assumption that pornography is a new corruption of media somehow, that it's like movies kind of started it. That's not true. And hentai as like a sexualized cartoon depiction of humans doing sexy shit, hundreds of years old also. Yeah. At least in Japanese culture.
It's funny because the thing of this isn't new. You just don't know about things that happened before you. That applies to so many things. We talk about that with gay, trans, queer issues. And it's funny that I would think that some people would use porn or the, newer adaptations of porn, into like streaming or all those services as an excuse or a reason why other things like gay shit or whatever, or anime is bad.
Right. And
it's just like, you're saying like, no, this has existed long before this moment. You just don't know anything.
Right. Yep. Exactly right. So anyway, yeah. I did want to ask, we sort of started with this, but I'll ask it now. How much anime have you watched? How much have you consumed, are familiar with, etc.?
Yeah, well, yesterday you turned on a TV show in the background, so I didn't pay attention to that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Jesus Christ. That's Ouran High School Host Club.
Yeah. So there's part of one. Let's see. I watched Bob's Burgers, world famous anime. I watched a anime movie that you don't think exists. It was the movie cartoon called The Last Airbender, which I'm pretty sure about all of that, and you claim that doesn't exist. But there was a movie cartoon that was like Avatar, not the live movie by what's his fuck. There is a
that movie doesn't exist either. If you ask any fan,
But I watched some cartoon movie with your ex-husband.
We have to fix this.
We don't have to though, because it's not going to be interesting even if we know what it's called.
Oh, I mean, the point is, it can't be called. It's not Avatar: The Last Airbender, Kyle.
Okay.
First of all, is that anime? No, Americans made it. So, but it's in an anime style. So maybe this is like one of those gray areas. Like I don't is a hot dog a sandwich or whatever, right? Like,
well, it's not champagne. This is bubbling cartoons. Or whatever.
Is cereal a soup?
Yeah.
You know, is Avatar: The Last Airbender anime? But also, there's only one Avatar movie, and it was live action. It was fucking terrible.
There's no
M. Night Shyamalan,
What? What?
M. Night Shyamalan.
He
did the live action Avatar movie that everyone fucking hates because it's objectively terrible.
You're not talking about the Blue Creature one. You're talking about actual like the Last Airbender
the
one.
Blue Creature one was James Cameron.
Yeah, I didn't know he was involved in any way.
Yeah.
There's no movie about the Last Airbender.
There's no animated Last Airbender movie.
Is there a longer form? Is there an episode that's an hour and a half?
Oh, I don't know.
I watched a long cartoon that looked anime style. That's and I thought it was the Last Airbender.
Okay. Did you hate it?
Yeah.
So maybe it was 15 minutes, but it felt like 4 days?
No. Well, okay. This isn't going to help my case because I know that I was high, but but I know all of this stuff that I'm saying to be true.
Okay. All right. We'll find it.
No, it was very long. It might have been a very long episode or some, I don't know, but it was not just a TV show. It was a long cartoon.
Okay. I mean, there was a period of time when my ex watched a lot of Miyazaki. And is it possible that it was just a Miyazaki movie?
You know what, Mike? Anything's possible if you dream it.
All
Did
right.
I dream that? I don't know.
I hope so.
Okay, wait. To your original question,
Yeah.
that is the extent of my watching anything of or relating to anime.
And I mean, okay. Sorry to put you on the spot like this.
Oh.
Do you actively dislike it?
No. I don't view that as like representative of, no. I don't dislike it. I feel like I would need to get into it. I would need to find something to hook me and kind of get into it because I think there's such a specific style and tone and subject matter that it deals with that it can feel like a lot to like try to get into or start with. And there's so much out there. It's not just one thing. There's such a big range. It's like, where do you even start with it? So I think if I could find an entry point, that would help. And looking up some stuff, I'm going to talk a little bit about Sailor Moon later, but like that could be a place to start. There's because there's stuff on Hulu. So I think I would just have to like kind of mentally prepare to like try to get into something.
Yeah.
And I'm just not there yet. But I don't dislike the idea or style or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, my brother watched Dragon Ball Z growing up.
Oh.
That's another exposure. And I always thought Piccolo was super hot.
Okay.
And it was like he was like a green alien or something. So it was like weird. But they were all super hot.
Which
Goku can go there, like
Goku on my face? No, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I mean, first, for a cartoon character to be hot, that's a thing. But then to also be a like non-human cartoon character that's also hot, like that's a lot of like. There's got to be a lot of hotness to cut through that many layers of bullshit.
No, you just have to have abs.
Oh,
it's
okay.
not that hard.
or biceps, I
or
guess.
biceps.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Johnny Bravo, Goku, and Piccolo. These are why I'm gay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. We'll unpack that later.
And
maybe.
the Ren and Stimpy wrestling episode where the wrestler put Ren between his pecs.
Oh, great. I love it.
How do you feel about anime?
It's hit or miss with me. Like I'm either like I don't know why this is so hard. I feel I don't want to be racist. That's what like there's a lot of like Japanese culture that I just do not fucking understand, and it doesn't speak to me, and it doesn't matter if it's subtitles or dubbed. I don't get it. There's a disconcerting, what the fuck is going on? What is the story here? What are the references that are being made? And I can't connect with it. and then I feel bad because I feel like I should be able to, or like there's a genuine want to do that I can't make happen. And then there's, all these guilt feelings about like, is that just xenophobia? I should be more open and accepting or whatever. But also, I don't know. There's a lot of white people shows in America that I don't like either, that don't speak to me. So, maybe I should forgive myself that. That being said, there are a couple of like actual like anime experiences that I've had that I genuinely really liked. I watched Spirited Away. That's a Miyazaki movie. Won a bunch of awards and is like consistently up there of like best movies of all time lists. We'll have it.
I've never heard of it
on there. And during my years at IMDb, we were encouraged to watch, a lot of like, top movies and familiarize ourselves with, the worlds or whatever. But then also, Attack on Titan, which I'm going to talk about later. I'm in the middle of watching it, and, it's really good. I find it very accessible and understandable and compelling and interesting. And so I don't know. It's hit or miss with me, and I'm never quite sure what the factors are.
Yeah.
There's that whole thing about like how in musical theater, when there's plot happening, you talk, and when you're having feelings, you sing, and when you're having deep feelings, you dance. And
I haven't heard that. That's funny.
And that's like why a lot of people hate musical theater is because of the over the topness of the way that emotions come out. There's an off-putting thing about anime that I don't like, of like a otherwise fairly realistically drawn character will have a feeling of some kind and their fucking face changes into an emoji. And I find that's just so jarring that I end up disliking it. But it's also kind of the point of that style visually. And like the noise that you made earlier is just an audio version of the same thing.
That noise happens while they have the close up of the big eyes, and there's almost like a tear, and their eyes are kind of shaking while they're like looking at something new or something. And that thing lasts for like a minute. Where they're just looking. I really like, my favorite style of art is surrealism. So like there's something that I really enjoy about, taking it's 80% real stuff and then 20% just randomly they'll have a feeling and start floating in the air with bubbles around them. Like, I don't know, there's something I kind of like about the ability to break reality in these ways.
And like Heartstopper had a bunch of like drawings that they did on top of the frame, and that seemed kind of anime-ish to me, but I tolerated that better. Anyway.
So, okay, let me tell you some numbers about anime.
Okay, tell me some numbers.
I think anime has a lot of parallels with being gay.
Yeah.
We already talked about what you're already in.
Unnecessarily dramatic.
Oh, that's true. End of list. That's all you needed. You talked about the definition is different depending on who you ask.
Ooh, yeah.
Anime, manga, people will have very specific opinions on what qualifies and what doesn't. Japan, US, even people in the US probably disagree, and they're probably like purists. But here's the evolving definition, or what have you. What kind of technology can be used to create it? So that's one. Two, it's more prevalent than you might expect, and it's growing among young people.
Groomers.
Yeah, that was my point. Anime, groomers, they're the same. So more than a third of the world's population watches anime.
Sure.
That's
it's like cricket and soccer. I just assume Americans are the ones that are fucked up.
Interesting. We're almost on the same like percentage of people that watch as Japan now.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I don't like that.
According to data, that's true. About a third of Japanese people said they often watch anime or read manga, and almost 90% of young Japanese people said they watch anime, and over 50% of Gen Z in the US watch anime.
That seems like a trick.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would think that there would be, okay, what anime are they watching? Because I would expect that many of an entire generation, there would be like more household names. And I don't know. But then again, TikTok rules the world, and I don't watch that shit, so who knows?
I mean, like, you take Pokemon and Sailor Moon, and you've got most of them right there.
Right.
You know, like, that alone probably accounts for so many people.
Yeah.
Sorry, real anime stans. You're like, no, there's all... Have you heard my niche one called Uzaku Goes to School or whatever? And
Right.
like, no, I haven't. But, you know, like... Also... There are still people who both don't know about it and don't like it. So in spite of growing popularity, especially among young people, in the U.S., 11 people have never heard of it.
Yeah.
We're finding them in our campaign called Convert Those Last 11.
2 of them are in this room.
2 of them. We're down to 9 now. Find the 9. Hashtag find the 9. 11% of people have never heard of it in the U.S. 40% of people have an favorable opinion of it.
Unfavorable.
Yeah. What?
Are they all World War II veterans?
You know, that's part of the, like, what you described of, I feel like I should be into it. I'm not. I'm worried that there's something xenophobic about it. Like, I think that's very different than people are like, anime sucks. And there's like definitely a racial element to it. So yeah, I wonder, like 40% of people, that's a lot of people that I don't have an unfavorable opinion, even if I don't like it, because it's a big community. People like it. It's art. It's, you know, I don't know.
I mean, I know there's also, is it dubbed or is it subtitled? And I think that there's the wide swaths of our culture that hate anything dubbed or subtitled, and that's xenophobic for sure. That's just racist. And I also wonder if people hate subtitles because we're illiterate as a country.
I mean, as Linda said, it's like reading a book.
Right.
So, yeah. Interestingly, liberals were more likely than conservatives to like it, but as likely to dislike it. I would have thought liberals would be like, so trying to passionately overcompensate and overcome the racism part that people, but no, about the same percentage of them have an unfavorable opinion of it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Are they World War II veterans?
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, those are just some of the numbers, which I can keep going. I can talk about particular shows or censorship. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to you about Pokemon.
Okay.
It's a Chinese franchise that was started in 2001. It's now owned by Sony.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know this. Pokemon are actually aliens from the planet Krypton. They are hunted down by humans called Pokemon sneakers. What's up?
Isn't Superman from Krypton?
Yeah, they're from the same universe.
They're from...
Yeah, the most popular Pokemon sneakers named Ash Ketchup.
Great. Excellent.
There were originally 152 Pokemon. There are now more than 10 million kinds of Pokemon.
Yeah.
The biggest, most popular series that Pokemon ever did was the Pokemon Meet the Flintstones.
Yeah.
Pokemon traveled back in time and met the Flintstones.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Yabba dabba doo.
Now
That was the original title of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is also the same universe.
they just checked it. They were like, holy shit, did you know someone already used that? We're going to come up with another name.
Yeah, Fred Flintstone, Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, you'll have an anime time. Okay, no, what I'm kidding. That was my Pokemon segment.
That's magical.
Pokemon fans, I see you. Okay, I'm actually going to talk about censorship in Sailor Moon.
Okay.
Do you know about Sailor Moon?
I have not seen it. I know that there are many, many faggots in my life that love it.
It's a
whole
faggy show.
bunch.
It's very faggy fandom.
Yeah, they're like groups of twinks that want to dress up as Sailor Moon characters for random ass parties that aren't even Halloween, right?
Yeah, yeah. You have a housewarming party and one gay shows up in a Sailor Moon outfit.
I also know that they're all named after planets or celestial bodies of some kind, and that's why everyone fights over being Sailor Uranus.
I didn't know that, but
Sailor Mars, Sailor Moon, Sailor. There's other ones.
Sailor Neptune.
I also know because I was looking a little bit into like queer representation in anime, which we can talk about here in a little bit. And I know that there's some like the way that was translated to American televisions, which is what I assume you're going to talk about. So go for it.
Yeah. So The quick, truthful recap: Sailor Moon is about Usagi, or in the English dub, Serena, a 14-year-old schoolgirl who's given the ability to transform into her alter ego, Sailor Moon, by a magical talking cat.
Sure.
And her, along with the other Sailor Scouts, save the world from evil forces from the Dark Kingdom.
Great. Okay.
Usagi is a bisexual in the original manga, and in the 1990s anime adaptation, and in Sailor Moon Crystal. So it's interesting talking about queer representation. There are a couple people I'm going to get to that they have censored or edited out their queerness, especially for the American version. And I don't see as many people talking about Usagi's bisexuality. There's like one article that talked about that, and it was just she has crushes on people of any gender, and so I didn't see. It's possible that there were like little things that could have been edited out of the, like maybe that was censored from, I don't know, but it also seems so pervasive and consistent that it'd be hard to edit out every little bisexual reference that came up. So
yeah,
but she's bisexual, but I will talk about a couple of relationships that are like, you know, more clear censorship.
I have heard that there were some challenges to maintaining the bullshit, right? That like
wait, what?
There are some head scratchers because there was some awkward creative editing that needed to happen to preserve the incorrectness of the way that things were being presented. So
yeah, when you want to do the least costly thing to edit out a thing, and that doesn't, and if you're all of a sudden taking a gay character and making them straight or changing something about it, like you're not rewriting and thinking through all these things. So yeah, it can lead to some weird stuff. But it wasn't just queer stuff in the North American release of Sailor Moon. I'm talking about the 90s anime Sailor Moon. And when it was released in North America, they changed character names, as I just mentioned. They changed clothing. They changed some dialogue. They changed nudity. It said they changed nudity and bathing. Specific. There's one, like I saw in the Wikipedia article, a bath scene where they, like, instead of a bath where you can kind of see more tit, they like made the bath like totally clear. So they edited bath water. They edited out violence, including violence against children. Which anime I think is more.
I'm pro violence against children.
I fucking hate kids, right? It's going to be less funny when I have something to talk about later.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Who would we be but these people? It has way more adult themes than I think I realized. I think anytime you think of cartoons or comics, this is a very old thing. Like the idea that that's for children is just not true. And there are a lot of adult themes here. Like I was like, edit out violence against children. Like, holy shit, I didn't know that's what we were doing here.
Right,
but they're very adult themes as told through the lens of sometimes younger people learning to navigate life.
Yeah, there are lots and lots of anime is not for kids. Yeah, and wasn't designed that way either. It's not. It's not that, like, you know, it's okay to talk to kids about murder in Japan. It's just it wasn't meant for kids in the first place.
Yep.
But also, like, there's some truth to that in our history of animation also. For instance, the big eyes in anime thing, at least one source was saying that the father of anime that I was talking about was influenced by Betty Boop, and that's why he chose big eyes. Betty Boop, also not for kids. She was a sex symbol. Pre-Hays Code, Betty Boop was like a raunchy slut, and then the Hays Code happened, and they had to change her you know, her appearance and content, but like also not for adults. And then you look at some of the things that happen in Looney Tunes, not for adults, not for kids. Looney Tunes, not for kids either. A lot of that stuff, right?
Wait, really?
Yeah. Like
I know they have references that are like only more adults would understand, but
yeah.
There's kids. That's for kids.
But then all those kids grew up to be parents who got pissed at it and were like, my kids aren't going to watch that, right? Because it's, at least for our changing sensibilities about the world, is not as innocent as it was thought to be, like in the 70s and 80s. Oh. I don't know. Anyway, it's just, there's a complicated relationship, I think, between cartoons being for kids and then there being cartoons that are not for kids, and how we reconcile all of that, because we have our fair share, South Park, of like intentionally not for kids cartoon offerings. Simpsons was that way, right? My parents didn't let me watch Simpsons because it was like an adult for adults cartoon in prime time. No, like
a lot of people say that. I watched The Simpsons with my family growing up all the time. So some people, I grew up in a religious, like Christian, suburb. So everyone's like, I'm not allowed to watch that. And I'm like, I watch that every Sunday with my parents, and we order pizza. Like, I had a very different. It's weird.
Yeah.
Rick and Morty, Archer, like there are plenty of shows that I love that are not for.
BoJack Horseman.
BoJack Horseman, oh God, that
Probably not for kids.
Oh God. So 2 relationships that were censored out. First is Sailor Neptune and Sailor Uranus, which their names are Haruka and Michiru. I'm sorry for all the names. I'm definitely going to miss them.
I think you did it.
Thank you. Thank you, white person. I appreciate that. They are canonically lesbian, which if a t-shirt doesn't already exist that says canonically lesbian, that's incredible. It needs to. It was redubbed. They were redubbed as cousins. Right. And that's a good example of like, there's no way you caught all the things that didn't make that a little weird.
Yeah, right. Don't all cousins hold hands and shop at Home Depot together?
Also, what I thought of, you would never see all the people that are against like new Ariel. Did they get up in arms about someone rewriting these 2 characters as cousins? Because the original, they're lesbians.
Yeah.
And you're ruining what the original thing is.
Right.
Very different. This was in the 90s, so obviously that wouldn't happen. But that same, like, no one would ever come in defense of these lesbians for the exact same logic of what does the original state, and we need to stay true to the source material, blah, 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 all that bullshit that they make up that they care about.
Yeah, there's a lot of bigotry that you can work your way out of by calling it purism.
Yep. Another relationship was Zoisite and Fisheye. They were originally both men. They were part of that dark kingdom that that Sailor Moon and the other Sailor soldiers are fighting against. Zoisite's gender, I'm pronouncing that like an English word, and that's probably not true. The gender was changed to female. Of the 4 kings of heaven, don't worry about it. It's just a thing. Of the 4 kings of heaven, he was the least mature and the most effeminate. So he became a woman, which is interesting because, one, that shows that people's terrible opinions about women and gays go hand in hand. Like, this immature one, we'll make that the woman. Yeah. Like that's what you assume women are. Yeah. And that's what you assume gay men are.
Yeah.
But also it talks about this accidentally created more diverse representation of women in anime, like the body, because again, they're least money spent possible. When they did that, they made minimal changes, and so the body type stayed the same. So that was actually an improvement on the representation of women's body types. It said specifically especially evil women's body types. I don't know why that was called out, but yeah, it's a weird accidental censorship benefit.
Yeah.
Anyway, the first 2 seasons of Sailor Moon are on Hulu, and they are the original versions, not the censored versions, or at least the first 2 seasons are dubbed in English.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the other seasons are not, but at least you can watch the original version, but in English on Hulu.
So, okay. Interesting. Very cool.
Hulu.com/Gayish podcast. Won't take you anywhere, but it should. And yeah, that's some of the censorship.
Cool. Well, that sort of dovetails nicely, I think, with I found an article on CBR.com, which is I don't know what that site is, but it apparently has like a lot of information about anime. Anyway, this article is from 2019, and it's called LGBTQA Representation in Japanese Anime and Games is Misunderstood by Fans.
Interesting.
And they go into this idea that I'll just read the first paragraph here. So quote, there's a significant push in Western fandoms for LGBTQA representation. Many fans can be forgiven in assuming, however, that this push is only from Western fandoms. It is a common occurrence, after all, to hear an American, Canadian, or British anime fan bemoan the lack of queer representation in anime in some form or another. So when these fans, exhausted of hearing anime being criticized, hear about, say, a trans character in mainstream anime, they'd be fast to assume, quote, oh, there's some mistake with the translation. The West is forcing diversity into my anime. These fans, tired of hearing Americans tell the Japanese what to do, know for a fact that Japan is less concerned with the plight of the gays than America, and that our sensibilities about wanting queer representation are unduly influencing them or pressuring them to do shit that they don't want to. And it's all built on this idea that, like, queer people struggle in Japan. Japanese culture is very unfriendly to queer people, so it must be American queer sensibilities corrupting this pure art form in some way. Anyway, and then this article goes on to say that's just not true. That Japanese queer representation in Japanese culture and in anime is far more prevalent, has lasted longer, and has been more visible than we give them credit for.
That's interesting. When I was reading about these areas of censorship, it said there was not a lot of queer representation in these shows before, Sailor Moon came out. But then I read other things. I was like, here's all the queer representation in anime. So I was like, I didn't even mention that part that I wrote down because I was like, not sure where the actual state of things was. I think you're helping explain part of that. Like, part of that, if we censor it out and they're like, hey, look, Americans, this is anime, and then we don't see it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there's an anime called Zombieland Saga.
Sure.
One of the core characters, Lily Hoshikawa, came out as trans, and there was this big backlash on the internet saying, quote, oh, the American translators changed the text. They hadn't. It was just, that was the story. And
do we just, like, we don't see it, so we assume any kind of representation must be a mistake? Is that like...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So many, this again from this article, quote, many Western fans have convinced themselves that Japan doesn't care about queer people. This ignores the growing LGBTQA liberation movements in Japan and the increasing support for same-sex marriage, especially among the youth. And this is also ignoring the long history of same-sex relationships in the pre-Meiji era of Japan. We've talked before about the fact that, like, there are quite a few historical points in Japanese and Chinese culture that were more permissive to same-sex relationships than we might expect. And the other thing is, there is some truth to the fact that, like, we have a difficult time connecting culturally with Japan. There are Japanophiles who are really pay attention and are keyed in and know the language and consume the content, but there are lots of big differences, and often the things that sail out are the homophobic things. Like Sugita Mio, who's in the Japanese House of Representatives, got a lot of attention in 2015. There was a YouTube video that went viral, and she said that the LGBT community was receiving too much support from the government, and was talking about the high suicide rate of LGBTQA Japanese children, and was laughing about it.
Jesus.
But so then, like, that rises to prominence, comes over here as a, oh my God, can you believe that? And then that becomes our idea of what Japanese culture is like when it comes to queer people.
Yeah. I think, unfortunately, the Trump years have helped.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Say yes.
Oh, am I stepping on
No.
your balls?
Okay. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. Boy, you must have fucking loved the Trump years then. Because, I didn't understand how much I used media quotes language to form my beliefs about other countries until here you can point to I'm sure we've had something exactly the same as that happen, and someone could easily point to us and say, look what one of the major political parties in their platform disagrees with LGBT people. Look how anti-LGBT they are. Surely you can grab a quote from Marjorie Taylor Fuckface. I always forget her name, even though it's not that hard.
Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Marjorie. I don't. There's plenty of examples you could draw from, put a quote around it, and say, look, Americans are anti-LGBT. And it just doesn't capture the full complexity of what's going on. Like, yes, homophobia exists here. No, it's not perfect. And if you just said blanket, Americans are anti-LGBT, it sucks because, like, being a gay living here, I'm like, no, there's large swaths of people that don't like this and want it to be better and all that. And I realized I was doing the same thing to other countries by relying on a quote or a person. And you say this person is in their Congress or in their parliament or in whatever, and then use that to represent the entire country.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And for the reasons that we were just talking about, when the what else did they change? It's a mystery. There's legit a barrier there. There's a language and cultural barrier there to challenging that, right? Like we might have those thoughts about the UK, but they speak English. I can read UK blogs and I can read Pink News and totally steal all of it for our news segment. And
leverage is the word we use in business.
Great,
you leverage it.
Excellent. Plagiarize, but verbally. But you can't. It's harder to do that with Japanese culture and other cultures that don't put out content in English directly, right?
Yeah.
So there is I think I want to move on from here, but I do have a.
How do we move on as a society, though?
Oh God. Well, so there is I found a listicle also on CBR.com that's 20 crucial queer representations in anime, and let's talk about those on Patreon.
Ooh, okay.
Because also some of them are problematic.
Oh,
like
interesting.
Japanese people, at least through our Western lens of queerdom, they don't always get it right.
Gotcha. And nor does American representation. So it's another thing where you could easily take that. We should be able to criticize and talk about those things, but not in a way that's like universally Japan. Like everyone does this or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, then you're talking about stereotypes and assumptions that apply to Japan.
Yeah.
The group of people that are anime and manga. I say manga, but then learned it was manga. Anime and manga fans in Japan. They are called otaku.
Okay.
And I want to talk about the stereotypes and assumptions of that group and where they come from. This name, otaku, actually refers to someone with any kind of all-consuming interest. So typically,
Star Trek otaku.
You know what? There are a research firm found categorized 12 different kinds of otaku. Anime and manga are the primary one, and maybe more so what people think of when they think of this. But there could also be I wrote down camera and automobile and electronic and just Japanese culture otaku. So this is when you can actually kind of track its usage and meaning and where it came from and how it got to that with a few big defining things. So originally the word otaku and it's also now used outside of Japan as people that have this kind of interest. Originally in Japan meant someone else's house. Oh. And also a second person formal way to refer to someone. The example that they use is especially a lot of people that were fans of like comics and stuff or would say, does your house own this book? A more formal kind of way to refer to you.
House of the Dragon. I get it.
Yeah. Thus formed Game of Thrones. So in the 80s, that word started to become used by manga and anime fans. And they don't know exactly why. It seems like a lot of different things people in anime or fans of anime started using that name for themselves. There was a science fiction author named Motoko Arai who started using this as a pronoun, but the fact that they were a science fiction writer, that happened in 1981. There was a popular anime Macross in 1982 that used this pronoun. Another idea is that the conventions, like anime conventions, it was a pronoun that people would use to refer to each other, in a more formal way. So it seems like there are probably a lot of different places it came and then just started becoming more associated with these fans. And then in 1983, there was an essayist, Akio Nakamori, that wrote Otaku Research. And it was basically making fun of anime and manga fans. Akio knew that they used this name for themselves and called them like they're obsessed. They made fun of their style, made fun of their physical appearance, said they were just obsessed with cute girls in the anime. So like kind of took a shit on them. And then that got this word into popular culture as being
pejorative
and specifically referring to this group of fans.
Okay.
And then it got worse.
Oh no.
When Tsutomu Miyazaki, stay with me, he was the eldest son of a wealthy family.
Yeah.
He was basically made fun of and ostracized as a kid. He struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts. His parents didn't he would complain that his parents didn't listen or understand him. His grandfather was the only person that listened to him. In 1988, his grandfather died, and he ate the ashes, or some of them, to try to preserve a part of his grandfather in him.
Okay, that's a kink.
I hope not. But also, he was caught spying on his sister in the shower.
Oh,
and then he attacked her.
Oh, okay.
Later that year, between late 1988 and 1989, he killed 4 girls, aged 4 to 7.
Whoa.
Hold on to your butts, everyone. Skip ahead a couple minutes if you don't want it to get real bad. He had sex with their corpses.
Oh.
He removed their hands and feet of one of them and kept them in his closet. He drank one of their blood. I think a couple of their bloods, actually. He ate the hand that he took. He ate it.
Oh, my God.
All of that is horrible. And for some reason, I think the worst thing is for one of the girls, he burned her bones, sent the ashes to the family in a box along with her teeth and a photo of her clothes and like a handwritten note.
Oh, my God.
Because like to get to like rub it in the parents' faces and send them, that's just so disgusting to me.
I'm very disturbed. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you couldn't skip ahead of this conversation several minutes. Sorry, Mike. You're just in it.
Yeah, trigger warning me next time, Kyle.
When the police got him, in his home, they found porn, slasher films, and manga.
Okay, sure.
So
not hentai, but manga.
What it actually was in there, to what extent, how important, all of that is kind of, I don't know. Maybe there was hentai, I'm not sure. But they described it as anime and manga films, along with the other things. And the idea, like, they think that police played up that part of it because in society it was being used as this offensive thing. They kind of blamed it on that.
When somebody goes that cuckoo, you need a reason. You grasp at straws, and here's this thing that's like a little bit off from mainstream anyway, so lash your shit onto that just to hope and pray that that's why it happened and that it's therefore isolated or less likely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Dungeons & Dragons makes you worship the devil, everybody.
I was very much reminded of that. Like, like you're Satanist because you like this thing. And so everyone's like, okay, well, in looking back, like a lot of people had manga in their house. Like it was coincident, it's just these things, of course, don't cause him to do these things. It was coincidence, but people really grabbed onto that and they called this I didn't write it down, but something like the otaku murders or something like that. Whoa. Like this name became then pervasive and connected to this guy. A psychoanalyst at Tokyo International University said, quote, "The danger of a whole generation of youth who does not even experience the most primary 2- or 3-way relationship between themselves and their mother and father, and who cannot make the transition from a fantasy world of videos and manga into reality is now extreme."
Whoa.
So, I mean, I think that is a lot of the assumptions that people are bringing to this of like you're disconnected from people because you believe in this fantasy world and you don't know how to socialize, you're socially awkward or isolated. I think so many of the stereotypes were already forming and this guy locked those in and that's dangerous and people will murder because of it.
Yeah. I mean, grisly evil murder.
Yes,
right?
yes.
This is not run-of-the-mill murder.
Yes, this isn't casual murder. So there was widespread panic about otaku. So it over time has been kind of reclaimed and I think much like a lot of things like, reading fantasy, liking D&D, being otaku doesn't make you this terrible person. I think we're kind of understanding that a little bit better. In 2013, the term has become less negative. 42.2, if you want to be specific, people self-identified as otaku in Japan. So like a lot of people are now, it feels like a word or a group that they're reclaiming. And otaku can also kind of mean geek. Like that's kind of how they're, a famous person that calls herself an otaku is Marie Kondo.
Great. That sparks joy.
Geek for folding shit. In the 2020 interview, she said, "I credit being an otaku with helping me to focus deeply, which definitely contributed to my success." So it's an entire subculture that I think for real shitty reasons has a lot of stereotypes and assumptions and has been used to discount and kind of push out a group of people that just kind of, I don't know, like when you think about it, like they just like this stuff, you know, it's fine. Like, that's their only crime. They just like this stuff, and someone else thinks it's weird, so they have to label it and treat it like it's shit.
It's just let people be happy.
I know,
Goddamn.
right? There's so little joy in this universe.
I definitely think that there's a lot of like bullying horseshit criticism that is just an inability to let people have joy in their life. Like, your life is so miserable, you have to shit on other people's joy.
Yeah. And I think it's, if someone doesn't conform, if someone doesn't fit in, so they find this fantasy realm comforting and enjoyable, then you're like, oh, you're weird and don't do the stuff I expect, so your stuff is weird and bad and my stuff is good. I think we bring this judgment to anyone who doesn't fit in. And we like, people have a fantasy and escape because you're being shitty to them, but then you judge the things that they're into because you're being shitty. Like, I don't know, there's this weird connection between the two that I think is just based on us disliking things that are a little different.
Your bullshit is bullshit.
Yeah, suck it,
fuckers.
Yeah.
Otaku.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was going to talk about Attack on Titan, which is like my favorite anime that I actually like have watched, and I was trying to come up with a whole like how Attack on Titan is queer, because here's a spoiler. Skip ahead if you don't like spoilers, everybody. I don't how far to, I don't know, but
take a swing.
Jaeger, the
Meister.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Aaron Yeager is his name, and he's the main character. Okay, God, I guess I am going to talk about it. Attack on Titan is this whole thing. It's this like dystopian alternative future when humanity basically now lives in one giant city with walls around it, because all of a sudden we don't know why these gigantic, I mean huge, 15, 25, 35 feet tall, mindless zombie creatures just started eating everybody and eating everything.
Republicans.
They're the Titans.
Oh.
And well, okay, so then this is the question of like what do they represent, right? Yeah. Because there's definitely some like,
it's a metaphor
going on there. Anyway, it turns out that like these like destructive giant zombie things, the main character is one or can turn into one. So it like there's a potentially queer reading there about like what's acceptable and destructive to society, and what do you have in you, and what kind of like evil creature are you, or how are you perceived when you come out, and like anyway.
I think it's a metaphor for werewolves.
which are
finally,
and they're literal werewolves. They're not a metaphor. Anyway, but I did actually find an article that is called, it was October 2020 in the East Asian Journal of Popular Culture, called Attack on Normativity, a queer reading of Shingeki no Kyojin, which is Attack on Titan, a queer reading of Attack on Titan. And their whole thing was that they thought the female characters had a bunch of stereotypes about femininity that they were doing, that they read as queer, because there's this whole like elite group of Titan fighters that like are responsible for defending the city against them when they attack, and like some of the more badass ones are clearly women, and but then there are some like overtly lesbian characters in the Patreon segment when we go over these 20 examples of queer representation. One of them is Attack on Titan. But then this thing of, quote, ultimately the ability of some main characters to shift between the two categories of human and Titan, like this main character, contributes to destabilizing binary divisions in terms of normative or non-normative bodies, providing an additional layer to a queer reading of this text.
Wow.
Through an analysis of the manga and anime versions of Attack on Titan, this article investigates how gender stereotypes, heteronormativity, and the dichotomy normalizing normative identities vis-a-vis non-normative identities are portrayed.
I was out halfway through that.
I know. That's why I wanted to read it. Queer theory sometimes, like, can we not use the 8 giant syllable words and just tell me what are you trying to say, because it gets worse. This analysis sheds light on the lack of alternatives to binary models in terms of gender and sexuality in the shonen manga genre, problematizing the contemporary relationship between dominant and oppositional identities. What the fuck are you saying?
I started being in, but then
I want to know what you are saying because it sounds very important and interesting, but this is inscrutable.
Is this like an article or is this like an academic paper or something?
This is the abstract to an actual academic paper on this. Yeah.
Okay. If this was like an article on salon.com, then it would, yeah.
Anyway, Attack on Titan, there is some like legit published academic discourse on it being you can read it in a queer way.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's cool about not only this, but in sci-fi and in Star Trek and in other genres where you represent someone that's an outsider, someone that's different, someone that has an element of what's supposedly evil. There's so much that you could apply. There's so many different groups and outsiders and people that you can kind of, a lot of people can bring their own feeling of being an outsider, whatever that caused that, including being LGBT, as a way to represent that, and they don't have to be as explicit. I think that's fine. I think there's a universality to that feeling that hopefully helps bond us and people that like those kinds of stories.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. Yep. So what we really should talk about and then end with is whatever that train wreck was that we watched last night. So
I was half watching, so I don't really know what happened.
So Mike Cubbington suggested this show, Ouran High School Host Club. So I watched the first episode last night. So
it's on Netflix?
It's on Netflix, which is interesting. If we had tried to watch it on Netflix, we would not have been able to before September 1st. So it just got put out on Netflix. Before this, you had to watch it on Crunchyroll, or that's like a big digital...
favorite kind of sushi is Crunchyroll.
I mean, why not?
Why not? You got that crunch, you got the roll. What's not to like?
First, I wanted to ask you, do you prefer subtitles or overdubs?
God, this never comes up for me. So I did just watch the movie Parasite, but I think I would prefer dubs if I'm just guessing, because I want to see everything and I'm not always watching.
Yeah.
I don't get to see all the visuals when I'm reading.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably that.
Yeah.
What do you prefer?
I will give a fishy answer, or a wish-washy answer, which is I prefer dubs for animation. I prefer subtitles for live action. And it's because animation doesn't sync up with the words very well, depending on the animation style anyway. So it doesn't matter if it matches or not. Live action, when their mouth moves and different sounds come out, the audio processing part of my brain freaks out and hates it. Anyway, okay, so Ouran High School Host Club is the story of Haruhi, who is a student at Ouran Academy, a school for like hoity-toity rich kids. Haruhi is looking for a place to study and goes into the third music room, which is where the Ouran Academy Host Club is held. It's a group of 6 male students, and they entertain female clients with sweets and tea. And there is very so first of all, host clubs and hostess clubs are a thing. They're a Japanese thing where it's like escorting without the sex. Like it's like you want to feel connected and like you're having a good time. So like you pay somebody to entertain you like in a social way. It's very interesting to me. But they also aren't a thing that happens in high school. So it's already like not a thing that's real, but it is. Anyway, it feels very brothel to me.
More like brothel.
Brothel. Yeah, it's exactly. So they're all of these dudes and they're all pretty or interesting in their own way. One of them is described literally as the Lolita character. He is like the teeny tiniest little like adorable baby twink character. But there's all of this like homoeroticism about like which one like how do they look and what are their appealing characteristics, and they like seem to be super into each other in like interesting ways. There's a pair of twins and they're like they look like they're Siamese twins almost, because they're usually like right next to each other talking at the same time with their mouths moving at the same time.
I did see that part where it was just like the same person's voice saying both, so you hear 2 voices but it's the exact same thing.
Yep.
That was weird.
Yep. And also like one of them is the alpha, and he's like the super hot one that like the most clients want to have him be their host. And he's clearly very well like admired by the other boys that are doing this thing. So they get a new uniform, and then they go to change, and then the main character, the alpha stud, who's been hitting on him the whole time, the curtain opens, it busts in, and there she is in a negligee, getting dressed. Turns out it's been a chick the whole time.
And if you may assumed it was a dude, then you're the sexist one.
Right, exactly. But then there's also this like moment of like, you've been hitting on me the whole time, and the alpha dude like turns all bright red, and like, is it because he's just been accused of being gay, or because he's been accused of being straight, or
right?
accused of being straight, or is it like, is very confusing and ambiguous to me. I mean, maybe it's not, and I just need to watch it again.
Yeah.
It was one time last night, and I was very tired. But like, but there's this whole dynamic of like, in this homoerotic environment, is the homoerotic interactions that we have been having, is it more than just bros being bros? There was some embarrassment about that. Anyway,
I wish how I'm going to interpret this, and you can't convince me otherwise, is that he was like, they're all gay, and all of a sudden he was like, oh fuck, am I maybe straight? I've been accidentally hitting on a chick, like maybe, and I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe everyone might have thought I was straight for a second there. Like, just complete opposite script is so hilarious and perfect to me.
Yeah, that's the plot of that 80s movie, right?
What 80s?
What was
that 80s show?
That was legit the plot of a fucking movie. It predates this anime, and is kind of the same plot.
I love it.
Anyway, so Cubbington, you were super right. It is super gay, queer. It is super queer, and that makes it interesting. And I found it it was hard for me to connect with it for all the reasons that I said at the top of the show. And I don't think I'll continue with it. But if you're into like a lot of like insane gender bendy stuff, it's for sure in the first episode of this series, so maybe worth checking out. There's also a live action version. It was also in manga, in like print. But that's Ouran High School Host Club. Thanks for the rec.
I think gender bending seems to be far more pervasive in anime than in any of our American shows. I didn't mention Pokemon in censorship. Pokemon removed James's cross-dressing antics is how it was described in one. So like, I don't know much about that, but like, that we removed cross-dressing is in line with what we would do. And also, gender bending seems to be, or play on gender, or that seems to come up a bunch in what I've seen. Yep.
And this show is part of a genre called hāremumono, which is harem. It's novels, manga, anime, hentai, and video games, and but it's where the protagonist is surrounded by 3 or more love interests or sexual partners, and they specifically call out Ouran High School Host Club as an example of reverse harem, and it's reverse harem because she is surrounded by a bunch of dudes.
Is Fraternity X a harem?
Yeah.
Am I sexually aroused by harem? I might be. Oh no. About to wreck my Pornhub searches.
And there's also a bunch of LGBT harem genre material out there, I guess. It's weird to me that it's like a whole genre. Like this whole idea of like one person, many, many love interests, and hilarity ensues is a whole cartoon genre.
That is wild to me, and also very fitting that we started this by me saying I needed to find my entry point into this world, and we've arrived.
Yeah, okay, great.
We got there by the end of it. Well, this is it.
I will have to make you. There's a Wikipedia article that's a list of harem, anime, and manga, and there's a section on the male harem, but I don't know whether that would be a male or a female protagonist, but at least it's a bunch of dudes vying for it. So we just have to go through this list and find one that's gay, and maybe you'll found your jam.
Yeah.
So did we do it?
We did it. We did something.
We talked about anime a whole bunch.
Talked about some anime. Some.
Mike Cubbington, please keep giving us your money. Don't let this be the end of it.
Yeah.
Should we take a break?
Oh.
Good work. Excellent. Let's take a break, though, so I can punch you.
Is that racist? I can't tell. I'm not trying to accurately represent it.
Great.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
So are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest.
We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest, but first.
But first.
I
I just wanted to say congrats to Caleb and Cal on their wedding.
Oh, yeah. It was adorable. We got invited to a wedding.
And we could attend virtually, which was really cute. And we got to see their wedding. It was beautiful. So congrats.
Absolutely.
Ben, thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, thanks for thinking of us. Okay.
What?
I kind of cried a little bit.
I did too.
And I was like, you faggot. Just...
I also cried.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. A reading from the Book of Obergefell. I really enjoyed that.
That was
too.
really cool. Yeah. I had never heard anyone do that. Yeah. They had someone come up and do a reading, and it was from the Obergefell ruling, which is cool.
Okay. Our website is gayishpodcast.com.
We have communities that you can join: Discord, Spaces, Facebook group, or you can find us on socials at Gayish Podcast.
Our hotline, you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails, especially if it's your gayest and straightest, please, or questions from my mom for Momsplaining. It's 5855-GAYISH, 585-542-9474. Standard rates apply.
Yeah, we're recording a new one soon, so now is an opportune time to leave some voicemails for Ma.
Yeah.
And our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
And our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington, 98109. Okay, as we said earlier, our quarterly Patreon happy hour is this coming Wednesday, November the 2nd at 6 p.m. Pacific. Get to hang out and meet us and chat about stuff and get hammered if you want to. And anybody at any level of support on Patreon will have access to the invite.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. It's low pressure. You can come just hang out and not talk, or you can hang out and chat and ask questions and what have you. So whatever you want to do.
Yep. Local gay bar review.
Ooh.
Okay, now I'm going to talk to you about The Planet, which is in Edinburgh, Scotland, in the United Kingdom. And first of all, I don't know if this is problematic or not. I think it kind of is. But anyway, it is home to the UK's only self-described dwarf drag queen, Miss DQ. And her posters were everywhere, all over the place. And
Miss
DQ, and she looks like a lot of fun. Sadly, she was not there when I was there. But anyway, it's cozy, super campy. Like the vibe was campy. And then I was hanging out with my Scottish rugby player friends, which are like, a lot of them are very attractive. It's distracting.
Yeah.
And but one of them is Tom Hetherington, who was a contestant on the Great British Baking Show, Great British Bake Off.
You were just hanging out with him?
Just hanging out with him, yeah.
Wow.
And the rest of his rugby team.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. My life is weird, Kyle.
Yeah.
That was weird. Anyway, we got a picture, so I'll post that to socials. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Had some beers, hung out with some hot Scottish people. 4 dildos.
They gave you a Great British Baking Show celebrity, and you couldn't even give that a 5? What does an establishment have to do?
Okay, 4.5 dildos.
All right. Okay.
I didn't make out with anybody, Kyle.
Oh, that's what it. There. Okay. I just need to know what needs to happen. I just need to get. Okay, and you answered it.
Great.
Tom.
Yep.
That's your fault.
Yep.
Gayest and straightest.
Let's do our gayest and straightest.
My gayest. I'm going. My
Right.
gayest is, although both Taylor and Carly Rae Jepsen had albums coming out, which we talked about Taylor, not Carly, this past Friday, gays were having a fucking fag attack over it. They were so excited. I, however, was very excited about the Tuvlo album that just came out. She is an actual LGBT in the LGBT community and a pop icon and amazing. And I love her new album. And you should listen to that as well as your other favorite new albums.
Of the 3, that's your favorite.
Oh, I haven't listened to the other 2. I played Taylor Swift a little bit before, and it's like, oh yeah, this continues to be, I don't know. She did
I legit, if it's the stuff that you were playing earlier, like since we've been here at the cabin.
No. Tuvlo I played yesterday, and then today, right before we started recording, I just put on the new Taylor Swift album
Okay,
for the first time ever.
I legit thought that was old Taylor Swift. Like it's exactly the fucking same shit the whole time. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. You don't need to, if you just listen to the old stuff and pretend she's saying a little bit different words this time, you've heard the new album.
Just, God. Excellent. At me, everybody. I want to hear it.
That's gayishpodcast at gmail.com. My straightest is Chris Kachatorian came over to help hang stuff. He gave me this. I love this. He gave me this framed thing that says brain magnets made me attractive, which was very sweet. And he was like, I'm going to come over and help you hang it. That would have been the gayest, except that when he got there, he was like helping me hang other things. Again, getting a straight dude to help you hang stuff. That's my gayest. But during the process, I like, oh wait, we need this thing. So I got out my toolbox and was like, oh look, I have this anchor that we can use. And then like I had thoughts and opinions about like how things worked and what kind of tools we needed. So I was like an active participant in this process.
So
not
handy.
Just saying, I know, right? So my straightest is that I could actually help.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
Thank you so much. What about you?
What about me? So the straightest thing about me this week, I'm still active in my national fraternity as a district governor, and every year I get a new regional director who's always just a young buck, right? Graduated from college last year and now works for the fraternity on the road as a traveling consultant. Anyway, my regional director was in town for the first time this week, and the straightest thing about me this week was comparing notes on the Bud Light seltzers with him.
Oh, yeah.
It was very bro-y. It's just like, what's your favorite kind of seltzer? I hate White Claw. Bud Light's where it's at.
Yeah.
I just, oh God. Okay, bro. Also, I do not hook up with fraternity brothers. We've talked about that a long time.
Mm-hmm. You can give them to me.
But I would go there.
We found your exception?
No, not an exception. I'm just saying, like, if I didn't have that rule, I would go there.
Okay.
Okay. The gayest thing about me this week is...
Are you worried that he'll hear this? That's an uncomfortable thing to say out loud. You don't.
That's fine. I'd tell him he's hot to his face.
That's weird. Okay.
I know. We're different people, Kyle.
It's one of the worst qualities about you.
Yeah, thanks.
Or best. I don't remember.
Yeah, you decide, everybody.
I don't.
The gayest thing about me this week is I've been traveling for work a whole bunch, which I don't stop talking about. I'll be in San Francisco all next week. But the gayest thing is that part of my official responsibilities now for next week is I am the handler for the drag queens for bingo. We're doing drag queen bingo as a corporate event at work, and I'm their handler now. Like, you need to take care of them. Yeah. Was like the messaging that I got. Like, oh, why me?
Yeah.
Like, we all know why.
Yeah. You do give a talk about LGBT acceptance and stuff. There's a little bit more precedent outside of you're gay, but I don't know how. There's at least a pretense to you be the person.
Yeah, absolutely. I also sort of recruited them. So Joseph Peters Matthews lived in San Francisco for a while and connected me with somebody who connected me with these drag queens, and so I got them the gig. So they're like, well, you're the connection, so you should handle them, but still.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
This week for listeners, Gayest and Straightest, I've been begging everybody to send them in via voicemail so we can play them in your own voice, and somebody fucking listened and did it. So we're going to hear from Chase Carrico.
Hi, Gayish. This is Chase, and I have Gayest and Straightest this week. My Straightest is that the NBA season just started, and I'm a big NBA head and joined a friend on his podcast, and we talked about basketball for 3 hours. And my gayest is that I have 2 weddings coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I am actively pursuing my gay friends to make them dress me because I do not trust myself to dress for these weddings. Thank you.
NBA head, that's your gayest.
Yeah. Is that not how they refer to themselves? I love the idea of like when you're gay and you're like, go to your other gays and you're like, you're gay, help. And they're like, you're gay. And I'm like, well, but no, help. Because I've definitely been in that situation. Like, I need a homosexual. And they're like, you. And I'm like, no. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chase. And thanks,
Mike,
for the idea for anime. I truly hope that you don't hate us now.
Also, thank you to our super gappers: John Crowley, Stephen Porcio, Stossel, Harry Shaw, Josh Copeland, Jonathan Montanus, Forrest Nail, Patrick Martin, James Barrow, Steve Douglas, Explosive Zania, Just Jamie, Kevin Henderson, Donald Linsky, Thomas B, Dusty Sands, A. Coleman, Chris Kachatorians, and Jerome York. Thank you to our super Gap Bridgers. We appreciate you.
Thank you, mega ass superstars that you are. That's it. This has been Gayish from the Chris Cacciatorian Studios in the mountains. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you.
Hi. I have to take my pills now, Kyle.
Oh, okay.
Here they come. I don't need these ones. Are we having fun yet?
But that means you're going to still be crazy for like another couple hours until those hit. So,
Yep. Enjoy.